Welcome to Beyond the Syllabus, where we talk with superintendents, curriculum leaders, and education innovators who are rethinking what school can be and how it can better serve the academic and personal needs of every learner. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Syllabus. Super excited for our guest today, Dr. Mike Matsuda. Dr. Matsuda has served as a superintendent of Anaheim Union High School District since 2014, is an elected trustee of the North Orange County Community College District, and past president of Californians Together, a statewide advocacy network for English learners. He's also the recipient of many awards, including Leaders to Learn From Awards from Education Week magazine, the Visionary Education Leadership Award from Cal State Fullerton, the California Association for Bilingual Education Administrator of the Year Award, the Outstanding Community Partner Award from the UCI School of Education, the California Council for the Social Studies Administrator of the Year for promoting democracy in public schools, and lastly, the founder of the National AI K12 Summit in Anaheim. Mike, pleasure to have you on today.
Hey, it's great to be here, Aidan.
You know, that felt kind of like when Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson were getting introduced, and the announcer was saying all these things about Tiger Woods, and Phil was like, all right, we get it.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
But
Exciting to be here. Yes.
yeah, pleasure to have you, man. Listen, you've had such an incredible career, obviously detailed by all those awards, which I hope to get into most, if not all of them today. But let's work backwards a little bit here. You announced your retirement coming at the end of this calendar year. Can you talk a little bit about the decision and emotions associated with that?
Well, it's been 11 years, which is a long time. Anaheim Union is a very complex system encompassing 5 cities. It's a 7 through 12 district with about 25,000 students. So a lot of people don't realize that if we were K-12, we would be the largest in Orange County. And I think in 11 years, we've accomplished a lot in putting Anaheim on the national map for school transformation, shifting the purpose of school away from sort of this old factory model of test scores. Now we are one of the leaders in partnering with businesses. In fact, we have 120 corporate partners and nonprofits as well as higher education. And really reimagining schools is coming out of a silo of just K-12 into building an ecosystem, developing young talent.
That's amazing. 120 corporate and nonprofit partners.
Yes.
I've
And
never heard something like that.
yeah, over 17 cities. So a lot of our partners out in South County and Irvine and so forth. But and including national partners like Google. We're the first district to partner nationally with Google.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it seems like you guys have done so much in 11 years, and especially in this time now with kind of the AI revolution going on, really stepping on the forefront of that and being a leader. Can you talk a little bit about how you first received kind of the boom of generative AI and what you guys have done over the course of the last couple of years?
Well, because of some of our business partners in like cybersecurity, for example, 2017, we started to build a cybersecurity pathway in Orange County. Um, and and creating this concept of reverse engineering a job, right? Working with the end user, the corporate folks, bringing in the community college. In this case, it was Cypress College, and then asking, what does it take to um, get somebody hired in your sector? We didn't ask for a job for our students, but what does it take? And I think that was that was the beginning of this uh, learning about AI, because some of our corporate people were in this cybersecurity space. We're saying, look at there's a new wave coming. We don't know what's going to hit. So about the time the pandemic hit, or right before that, we started to a virtual high school, right? Cambridge Virtual Academy, and more teachers from that academy started to really delve into AI. So we were ahead of the curve. And then right after the pandemic, we launched the National AI Summit K12 in a K-12 space. And that got a lot of attention nationally, put us on the map. And then, um, then the wave hits with ChatGPT hitting. And so we were well positioned. And I think we could talk further about it, but really it's moving from AI literacy to AI fluency, meaning that AI literacy is sort of like the awareness of AI in the world and becoming literate about what AI means. AI fluency is almost the language of AI, fluent in the language. And that means it's beyond just a pathway for artificial intelligence. We have got to teach teachers how to be fluent in these tools so that they can, across content areas, can integrate AI and give these tools to students to create and innovate and develop new solutions to the world's problems and learn how to monetize that as well. So when they come out of AUHSD, they have these tools, powerful tools, and they have a sense of fluency in terms of solving problems. So they're going to be ready regardless of what field that they go into. Because on the back end, Aidan, we know that the fastest growing underemployed segment of American workers are college graduates, 25 to 30% and growing. And much of that is because of the entry level jobs been replaced by AI. So this is a sense of urgency, and AUHSD is a national leader in uh, developing fluency for young Americans.
Yeah, I think that urgency is incredibly important, and I think the fluency piece is being seen. The impacts of it are being seen now, as you mentioned, with that 25 to 30% number and growing. But I think the true impact is going to lag behind a little bit, and we're really going to see the impact of being fluent or not being fluent over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years. And you're going to see this with lower middle class and entry level jobs, and what that looks like. As a society, we are being asked to upskill the entry level in a much larger gap than ever before. Right? When new technology hits, there's always a sense of, okay, well, these jobs are gone, but these are created. And it's kind of just like one step up. Right? But now with these entry level jobs being gone because of AI, the step up is really like 5 steps up. And that's a huge ask. And I'm excited and nervous to see how we as an education society and as a country continue to evolve with that.
Well, that is the essential challenge for this country in terms of our ability to compete internationally. And there are other countries, there's a lot of people have talked about China, uh, and because it's more of a top-down country, right? It's kind of moving ahead of us in terms of integrating AI in the K-12 space, whereas many districts in the United States, as you know, are bottom up, controlled by school boards and so forth. And I think that construct is not helpful right now in terms of the AI world, right? Um, so there, because what you see going on, even in Orange County, that a lot of districts are sort of keeping AI out because, especially, it's seen as cheating or whatever. But we see it as a powerful editing tool and a necessity in a student's development, especially as a critical thinker and critical writer and speaker. So AI is brought into our classrooms. We've had discussions with teachers on, as well as administrators in our obviously our board of developing common sense AI policies and an AI framework that is firewalled so the student's privacy is protected, but still allows AI in to be integrated so we can create this culture of fluency, a goal of AI fluency for all students.
I think another aspect of importance to this fluency in AI is in how you use it and how to make sure you're using it for good and not for bad, consciously and subconsciously. Right? MIT just came out with a study where they did a bunch of different experiments in a bunch of different structures and formats. Right? You did you read that study?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, it's talking about how people who used AI to write for them forgot what they wrote within minutes. But people who used AI to just brainstorm and then they wrote it themselves, their creativity was up. But then the following week, their skills and levels were down, right? So striking the balance and being able to understand, how can I use AI effectively to help me in what I'm trying to do without creating long-term negative impact?
Yeah, it's some I think the fear is that it becomes too much of a shortcut to
Yeah,
get work done rather than this iterative process of editing and owning the work, right? That's what we want to teach. And you and the MIT study underscores the importance of developing an instructional approach to integrating AI for fluency.
100%. And I think that pedagogical conversations need to be had with the technological conversations, right? And that's our focus. I always talk about a shift from a subject based model to a skills based model, and a shift from a time based model to a proficiency based model. And how can we use AI to help perpetuate those pedagogical shifts?
Yeah, I think Linda Darling Hammond, the State Board of Education chair, Stanford professor, whose whole life is about supporting whole child education, deeper learning. Um, that's really, I think, the focal point right now in terms of how AI tools can be integrated into whole child pedagogy,
Yep.
right? The teachers are concerned about replacement, right? Is AI going to replace me? And I think that the short answer is yes, it will if you don't change your pedagogy, up your game here about whole child, right? Because whole child pedagogy is really about becoming human, right?
Yeah.
And self-actualized human. We call it the 5 C's, which is the language of business. And I'll just quickly say what the 5 C's are: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and that would include oral communication as well as written communication. Uh, creativity, being able to think outside the box and you think about the world of work. Those are transferable skills that our business partners are drawn to. They say this is why we're drawn to AUHSD, because this is your driver. But the fifth C is about compassion and kindness and character, right? Building that. The emotional development of uh, uh, an adolescent. And I think that's really important in this world where technology is taking that way, where kids are becoming addicted, and social media is really affecting young person's ability to have deeper friendships and deeper relationships with peers and adults as well. And I think that's the fear right now. So we have to be very clear about where we're going with AI, and that it is supporting whole child education. It is not the end itself.
Yeah, and that whole child piece is something I'm super passionate about. About 3 years ago, I read a paper from a Danish psychology professor named Jan Tonesvang, and it was a four-quadrant model that he created to help understand and analyze a client's phenomena. And this is in a clinical psychology setting, right? And it basically stated that in order to dig into anything that a client is expressing to you, you must first zoom out and understand these four quadrants. And so quadrant one was the singular internal, quadrant two was the singular external, quadrant three was the plural internal, and quadrant four was the plural external. And just super quickly to add some color to those four, quadrant one, singular internal, is basically your thoughts and feelings and emotions, the things that are singular and internal to you, right? The singular external is your behaviors, the things you say, the actions you take, things that are still singular to you but observable, right? Plural internal is like your family values, your morals, things that are still internal to you but maybe shared among your inner circle. And finally, the plural external is your system, your government, your religion, things that are pretty generalizable to those around you in your world, right? And the idea is, again, is you need to understand all four of those quadrants before diving into something. Even if that thing, even if that problem, that question lies in center of one of those quadrants, you must first have the context and understanding of all four.
Um, I have to look at that's very interesting, Aiden. I really like those concepts, but then it's how do you get there and what is the role when we talk about pedagogy, right? How do you get inside of a kid so they're self-aware of those with those four quadrants, that
Yep.
what's really going on inside a child's mind. We have partnered with a one of America's leading neuroscientists in adolescent brain growth. Her name is Mary Helen Imordino Yang from USC, and her big idea is about reflective learning, reflection, leading to transcendent learning and thinking. So what that means is that after a big project, we have these amazing performance task assessments where the student reflect on what that project means, right? What does it mean? What is your takeaway? The so what question that oftentimes is not built into the pedagogy. We have built that in as part of the thinking. And that so what piece, then the kid could either orally express that or write it down, and we capture that in the platform. And then with AI, we're able to curate that back to the teacher and back to the kid. So there's a feedback loop with AI,
Yep.
right? And now we have AI uh, like a co-pilot that helps a kid navigate this. And then by the time the kid graduates from AUHSD, we're building that sort of internal uh, transcendent thinking. As a kid grows into adulthood, always reflecting, like, what did I learn? And if you think about sports or football, basketball, Monday is all about looking at the film and reflecting on what the mistakes and the things we did right.
Yep.
Uh, so we do it, but without calling it that. And now we have this professor working with us and saying, look, you have to be more intentional about building these practices in. And she's measuring the brain growth. So it's going to be very interesting uh, in terms of this project. I think it's going to have national implications uh, on adolescent brain growth.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. That's super interesting. And I'd love to stay connected to that and see how it unfolds. I think the thing I want to double tap on that you just said is instilling those practices in students, right? Whether you want to call them metacognitive practices or meta learning practices, right? Or just self-awareness, right? For a student to be able to identify the way that they are learning, the way that they are thinking, the way that they are growing, the way that they are failing, right? Those are super important skills for a student to be able to catalyze their own growth. Because at the end of the day, it needs to come intrinsically.
Yeah, that's absolutely where we're headed with this. But it's difficult in this world of where many schools and school districts are still tethered to what we would, as standardized test scores, and their
Bruce.
whole system, their whole school structure is based on that. And I think that's rather shallow. Yes, reading and writing is absolutely important to succeed, but how do you get there? There are different ways to get there other than just a standardized test, and I think that's the part of the challenges out there in terms of transforming schools. I mean, going back to our model where we're trying to work with the end in mind and bringing in corporate and higher ed leaders to help us develop this talent pipeline. If you think about baseball, Aiden, you think about a farm team. Um, there's a guy in 1926, his name is Branch Rickey, the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's the one who conceptualized the baseball farm team. And then from 1926 for over the next 20 years, St. Louis won 6 World Series titles. And then the rest is history because now every baseball team has their own farm system. So when I talk to corporate leaders, I use that metaphor and I say, imagine if the K-12 system became part of your farm team. right? The feeders into your region. And teachers became talent scouts, not only identifying talent, but developing talent for your sector. And you could imagine the epiphany. Wow, okay, I get what you're doing, right? We're building a talent pipeline. Uh, and that's why we have 120 partners, because they see that. And there's all kinds of internships and mentoring going on. Um, so it's a new way of looking at school, right? Where we intentionally embed a lot of these uh, transcendent thinking, the five C's, and we work very closely with higher ed and our business partners.
There's so much gold in what you just said. I want to zoom in a little bit to the part you talked about of students being able to, like I said before, identify that, but also have kind of that parallel to what's going on in the workforce, right? So much of the conversation is, I graduated high school or I graduated college and I didn't know how to do this, or I wasn't ready for this job, or it didn't prepare me at all. Well, how's that possible? Right. And I think it goes back to what you said before you mentioned that about reading and writing is important. But are you telling me that the only way to get there is through standardized tests? Absolutely not. Right? I always talk about I hated geometry class. And I loved math. Like I was a math guy, but I did not like geometry, specifically the Pythagorean theorem. I'm borderline traumatized from it. Right? But if you're going to make me learn it, first of all, let me learn it in a context that's important and interesting to me. For example, let me go stand on the baseball field and draw a right triangle from third base to second base to first base to third, right? And then guess what? I'm going to be standing at practice later that day and I'm going to get hit in the head with a baseball because I'm sitting there thinking about the Pythagorean theorem. Congratulations, you've just engaged me, right? But also, let's ask ourselves, why do we have to learn the Pythagorean theorem? Like what is rooted in that? And my answer, and I think many people's answers would be, well, it's important to have that level of problem solving. It's important to be able to analyze a situation where there's known variables and unknown variables. It's not that the memorization of a squared plus b squared equals c squared is important, right? It's the underlying skills and mechanisms. Okay, so if that's what's important, are you telling me that the only way to get good at analyzing situations where there's known variables and unknown variables is to learn the Pythagorean theorem? No, that's insanity. So why is every single student forced to learn it that way?
And young people are very transparent about asking that question, right? And I think that what's happening in America, this generation Z is very uh, fragile right now in terms of losing their confidence in the traditional way of climbing the ladder of success, right? This is why Google is one of our national partners. They came in and they said, look, um, K higher ed takes too long, it costs too much money, kids are not coming out with skills that's needed. So we have done a big 180-degree look at K-12 systems, and AUHSD came on top. And they said, Mike, you have a reputation of getting things done, but also what we like about your approach is that you get things done during the school day, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can give you a Google certificate program after school or Saturday, but we're interested in bringing this into the classroom. These Google certificates, there are 5 of them. They go, these are 5 areas that are currently the K-16 system is not satisfied. And guess what? The number one was project management.
Mm-hmm.
Project management is not taught anywhere in K-16. Data analytics, of course, IT. There are some more technical ones, but um, so that's what we did. They challenged us. They said, we'll give you the licenses, and we want to track how the kids are doing and all that. So and I told the vice president, I said, her name's Lisa Guvalver, and I said, I do not impose, right? I invite teachers because that's the way you're going to get buy-in. And we ended up with the first year, we had 150 kids graduate with a certificate.
Wow.
Year 2 was 300. Year 3 was last year was 850. This year it's going to be about 1,500.
Wow.
4,000, right?
That's
So
amazing.
they're really happy with the results, and they're spreading that nationally. But um, they're what I you know what they're not saying this publicly. They would never say this, and I'm not going to say that they said this. But what I see business doing with these types of certificate, because IBM and other businesses have certificates like this, is kind of an end around the system, right? They're saying it's kind of like potentially what Netflix did to Blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
Or Amazon did to Sears Roebuck, right? Um, I see that happening, and I think it's a wake up. It better be a wake up call for higher ed, right? To really start better aligning themselves with the world of work,
Yeah.
and so everything's changing very quickly, and the ways of doing things are no longer applicable to this young generation.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I hope we keep changing. There's a lot to repair and recover.
Yeah, and I think this is where, like Aiden, what you're doing and finding there's going to be huge opportunities whenever you have tectonic shifts in society. There's always going to be opportunities, and I think there's in the K12, K16 space, there's huge opportunities to reinvent what teaching and learning could and should be.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it needs it more than anything. You know, I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about some of the initiatives you've been able to lead at Anaheim, specifically the Career Preparedness Systems Framework. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about where that came from and what that looks like today?
Well, we had all these initiatives moving, the dual enrollment, the uh, mentorship and internships, all of these career pathways like cybersecurity. Of course, we created one in biotech and an AI. Um, so I was looking for sort of a convergence of where does it all converge, and I came up with this career preparedness systems framework, which is a fancy, boring name for a lot of exciting things under the hood. So if you think about a Venn diagram with three circles, the one circle is what we call these 5C skills, which is really important, and we do that through the pedagogy across the curriculum. The second circle is what is referred to as hard skills. Those would be the pathways that I just described. And we have about 17 of them, as well as the content standards as well in those hard skills, right? So that's the second part of the circle of the Venn diagram. And the third one is the development of student voice and agency and purpose. Because if the student does not have a sense of purpose, that is equated to motivation, intrinsic motivation, uh, ability to transcend the learning and say, okay, I'm going to use this learning for my purpose.
Hmm.
Um, and the kid is in the middle of the Venn diagram. So when all of those things are working, the kid comes out like with a sense of purpose. And this is why we have tracked for 4 years our student performance. And mind you, mostly lower income, mostly first generation, a lot of English learners, Latino. Um, our students are outperforming every demography in every district in Orange County at the University of California at Irvine.
Wow.
And GPAs and persistence rates. And persistence in the university is really vital. That means you persist from your freshman to sophomore year. If you do that, you have a great chance of graduating on time in 4 years, right? Our persistence rate is like 95% with this low
Wow.
income group. Yeah, and that even though their test scores, SAT and stuff like that, are not stellar, right? I mean, obviously the top kids are still getting it at UC, but compared to other like demographic groups, they're just far outperforming. And even with kind of wealthier uh, uh, kids from South Orange County, they're outperforming. So we have 4-year data from that, and Chan Zuckerberg gave us a grant with the University of California to look at these 5 Cs and development and purpose with predictability and potentially influencing the way the University of California looks at admissions. So we're really excited about that project.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. And so with that demographic of students, part of the award list that I read when we got started had to do with the bilingual education, right?
Right.
What percentage of those low income students of that demographic are bilingual?
Yeah. Well, who are English learners, probably about 20-25%.
Yeah.
But we also, on the back end, the state has a seal of biliteracy because, to come out and graduate, I'm monolingual. I only barely speak English, right? But, the, but now it's like, hey, if in the world of global economies, right, you've got to have different languages
Yeah.
under your belt. And, if we're, to me, that's the strength of Southern California. We're very diverse, and I think the businesses coming out of that mix, right, are have a leg up of other in terms of potentially being world class businesses, right? And there's just a lot of energy to tap into that has not been tapped into.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about tapping into that energy and creating, uh, you know, opportunities for the next generation that produced the Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other piece we haven't talked about, Aiden, is intentionally infusing entrepreneurship and problem solving into that pedagogy. So we have another partner, nonprofit partner called Empowered out of Wichita, Kansas, and they do entrepreneurship training for teachers. And we have about 300 teachers now trained up across the curriculum in entrepreneurship. So we're so in our district, if you're a kid coming into our district, you're getting a lot of stuff, and you're going to come out there with the tools to. We want you to help solve the problems and then learn how to monetize that and create new job opportunities. Which because people say, hey, jobs are disappearing. We have got to prepare kids for this world, and why not prepare them to solve the problems and learn how to monetize it.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously as an entrepreneur, I couldn't be more in favor of instilling entrepreneurship into education. And I think when you boil it down, to me, it means you need to teach kids to challenge everything, right? As an entrepreneur, you're constantly saying, no, this is not good enough. No, I think I can do that better. No, we need to help these people, right? That type of thinking is not you shared in classrooms today, right? And I think you look at the model of education, and a lot of times it's a teacher standing at the front of the room and kids standing or sitting, away and listening. And there's not a lot of room for that open dialogue. Like you said, like kids in this generation are better about asking, why do I need to do this? Or why is this important? Or I'm bored or whatever, right? But it's not yet to the level of actually challenging it, right?
So imagine, like, you think about AI fluency, right? Where you have okay, so in our district, the kids have surfaced a lot of challenges, right? Uh, could be homelessness, could be food insecurity, mental health, or fentanyl gangs, or whatever, right? So the teachers then working with AI, developing sort of we call them performance task assessment, like a project, and it could be a group project. Like, this is a problem. Okay, through the lens of our content, this is how broadly speaking, through whatever that content is, let's tackle this, right? And I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it. So AI has helped develop that, but it could customize that for the kid,
Yep.
right? Customize it depending on, like, the kid is on the football team, and all of a sudden you put that in there, right? And now we have, Aiden, where the kid is co-creating their experiences with the teacher and with the AI. Okay, and then the other piece, because the AI is, we use one platform called eCadence, uh, which is amazing because eCadence knows everything about the kid, the grades, the sports, the clubs, everything, some of the big homework assignments. Um, let's say that kid wants to be a doctor or a nurse, right? And the name of the game to get into medical school is not just the MCAT scores or your GPA. Medical schools are now looking at experience, clinical experience, research experience, that sort of thing, as an undergrad. So what we're doing is we're looking at like certified, they're called certified nursing assistants or certified medical assistants. These are entry level jobs, right? That you can get graduated from high school working at a medical clinic, right? um, but you're building your resume, right? Plus you have this 100-hour CNA certificate. Now what we're doing with AI, we're just piloting this, where, and I had mentioned how the AI knows everything about the kid, including, hey, you're interested in becoming a nurse or a doctor. So we have developed a mentor in that field, like a doctor or nurse, who knows everything about you and giving you advice, right? We're going to pilot that next semester. And you can imagine we're going to compare those kids in that pathway, that's a certified nursing pathway, with kids uh, who are not, right? The kids are getting the treatment with the mentor and everything, and then compare grades, compare attendance, compare all of these other indicators. And I think we're going to see a bump uh, in their performance and their
Yeah.
interest and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's really cutting edge how we're working with business. In this case, it's the clinical field, and then um, bringing in AI. And the teacher, what's happening with the teacher, we're enrolling that kid in an English class, right? The teacher is going to spend time in the clinic redoing the curriculum around health field. And there's tons of stuff, fiction and nonfiction, about healthcare and all of that. And the kids are reading and writing, reflecting in the field that they're interested in with an AI mentor. But the teacher is in their English classes creating uh, relevant, learning experiences for them. So we're really excited about that. I think that's part of what the future of education looks like in America.
100%. And I think the key word there is relevance, right? How can we make a learning experience relevant to each student? How can we make it unique? How can we acknowledge each student's individuality and craft experiences based on that, right? I mean, that's the core of my work, and something I'm super passionate about. So glad and happy to hear you're thinking along the same lines.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right.
sir. Well, listen, man, I think we could probably have like four more episodes worth of conversation here. There's so much that I had down that we didn't get it into, but I loved how our conversation was rolling. As kind of some parting thoughts here, we talked about so many of the amazing things that you've done at Anaheim, so many of the amazing things that are continuing to develop. But as you step away in a few months here, I want to go back to my opening question, which is what emotions are associated there? I imagine an immense amount of pride and excitement for your next chapter, but also maybe a little sadness.
You hit it. It's very bittersweet, I think,
Yeah.
moving on. Life is totally about a journey and being present, going back to the four things, that you had talked about.
Yep.
I'm reflecting on that right now. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, how do you, as an individual, fit into your broader schema of society? Um, I feel very fortunate, to have a lot of friends. And, we had mentioned Tom Tate. He's just an amazing person. And in terms of like, hey, being self-actualized in terms of your individual, who you are individually, but how you fit into the broader schema of society, whether it's through your religion or other types of uh, big institutions, right? So I'm grateful. I think coming out, my main emotion is just gratitude.
Yeah,
And as
that's awesome.
Tom Tabe would say, uh, kindness, that's coming out. I met so many kind, good people that are really wonderful, wonderful human beings. So I'm very grateful to have met so many people like that.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, Mike, I'm grateful for this conversation, and definitely want to set up a part two if you're game for it.
Absolutely, Aiden. It's been great.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for listening. Got an idea, a story, or a question about what we discussed today? We'd love to hear from you. To learn more about Unique Learn, follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and visit uniquelearn.co.